Let's talk about what's shaping your frequency today. Delyce here with another book review of a book that I have curated and added to the Freedom Store. If you don't know about me and my platform, my passion is to free people from mental slavery. I have written books and I read many, many books, and I'm sharing those books that I believe will create a better life experience with you and breaking them down in fairly short videos. What if your justice is just wrong? The book I'm reviewing today, Social Justice Fallacies by Thomas Sowell. Hey y'all, welcome to the Freedom Store, where we don't just read books, we get free with them. Again, I'm Delyce, and if you were raised on reading Rainbow like I was, you already know that books can take you anywhere. Today, we're going somewhere a little uncomfortable, but powerful. Now, don't get scared. We're diving into Social Justice Fallacies by Thomas Sowell. Before you clench your pearls or your politics, let me just say this book doesn't hate justice. It just dares to ask, what if the justice you're chasing isn't even real? Yeah, let's talk about it. Sowell lays out some bold, simple truths. But since my inner child is still sitting on the classroom rug asking too many questions and making my kindergarten teacher cry, I'm going to break these down for you like we're in kindergarten. Fallacy number 1. Group outcomes must be equal, or it's injustice. Kindergarten breakdown. If all the kids who are wearing red shoes didn't win a prize, that doesn't equal that the game was rigged. Maybe they just didn't practice. Fallacy number 2. Disparities equal discrimination. Kindergarten breakdown. Imagine you and your friend both planted a seed. One of you watered it every day. The other forgot. When one plant grows taller, that's not injustice, that's effort. Fallacy number 3. Intentions matter more than outcomes. Kindergarten breakdown. If you pour orange juice in a gas tank, it doesn't matter how thirsty the car looked to you. You broke the car. Now let me tell you a quick story. Marcus and Tasha were in the same class. Marcus said the teacher was unfair because Tasha always got better grades. But what he didn't mention, Tasha stayed up every night studying. Marcus stayed up making TikToks. Same test, same opportunity, different choices. Marcus didn't need a protest. He needed a planner. All right, here's a personal tie-in. Reading this book helped me stop blaming the world for crops I never planted. Victimhood may be comfortable, but comfort is not the same as freedom. Sowell isn't trying to hurt your feelings. He's trying to hand you the mirror. Here's a quote from the chapter called Chess Pieces Fallacies in a section called Implication for Social Justice. Attempts to verbally convert people currently in different income brackets into different social classes ignore turnover, especially in high income brackets, where many people are transient with a one-year spike in income. Presumably, it is flesh and blood human beings that we are concerned about, not disparities between statistical categories containing very different numbers of people and ever-changing mixes of people. Okay, and then this one on racism from a section called Words, Deeds, and Dangers. Racism may be the most powerful word in the social justice vocabulary. There is no question that racism has inflicted an enormous amount of needless suffering on innocent people, punctuated by unspeakable horrors, such as the Holocaust. Racism might be analogized to some deadly pandemic disease. If so, it may be worth considering the consequences of responding to pandemics in different ways. We certainly cannot simply ignore the disease and hope for the best, but we cannot go to the opposite extreme and sacrifice every other concern, including other deadly diseases, in hopes of reducing fatalities from the pandemic. During the COVID-19 pandemic, for example, death rates from other diseases went up because many people feared going to medical facilities where they might catch COVID from other patients. Even the most terrible pandemics can subside or end. At some point, continued preoccupation with the pandemic disease can then cause more dangers and death from other diseases and from other life stresses resulting from continued restrictions that may have made sense when the pandemic was in full force, but are counterproductive on net balance afterwards. Everything depends on what the specific facts are at a given time and place. That is not always easy to know. It may be especially difficult to know when special interests have benefited politically or financially from the pandemic restrictions, and therefore have every incentive to promote the belief that those restrictions are still urgently needed. Similarly, it can be especially hard to know about the current incidents and consequences of racism when racists do not publicly identify themselves. Moreover, people who have incentives to maximize fears of racism include politicians seeking to win votes by claiming to offer protection from racists, or leaders of ethnic protest movements who can use fears of racists to attract more followers, more donations, and more power. No sane person believes that there is zero racism in American society or in any other society. Here, it may be worth recalling what Edmund Burke said back in the 18th century. Preserving my principles unshaken, I reserve my activity for rational endeavors. Our principles can reject racism completely, but neither a racial minority nor anyone else has unlimited time, unlimited energy, or unlimited resources to invest in seeking out every possible trace of racism, or to invest in the even less promising activity of trying to morally enlighten racists. This right here, this is the principle, the foundation of the Freedom Story, and why I have such a passion to teach people not to focus on racism. They don't realize that that is a seed, a curse, a generational thing passed down through their bloodline of staying in slavery and attracting even more racism when it's not something that you can control, but you could definitely control how much of it you are affected by and you notice, because if you're thinking about the time, that's what you're going to see, it's what you're going to attract. So a little bit more. Even if by some miracle we can get to zero racism, we already know from the history of American hillbillies, who are physically indistinguishable from other white people and therefore face zero racism, that even this is not enough to prevent poverty. Meanwhile, Black married couple families who are not exempt from racism have nevertheless had poverty rates in single digits every year for more than a quarter of a century. We also know that racists today cannot prevent Black young people from becoming pilots in the Air Force or even generals in the Air Force, nor from becoming millionaires, billionaires, or president of the United States. Man, 10 out of 10. Change your mind, set, get off the plantation. If this book shook you in a good way, check out these other titles that dig even deeper. Discrimination and Disparities by Sowell. The Coddling of the American Mind by Haidt and Lukianoff. The War on the West by Douglas Murray. And yep, each one is in my curated Amazon list, The Freedom Store, or you can go to DelyceCollins.com. I got my Freedom Store there as well. If you learned something, like, comment, subscribe, tag a friend who thinks fair always means equal. And remember, take a look, it's in a book, your freedom story. Chase your butterflies. Life is an art, be creative. Life is a game, have fun. Today, you have sat through a book review of Social Justice Fallacies by Thomas Sowell. I'm Delyce Collins, coming to you from the Freedom Store, and I will see y'all on the next video. Peace.